I just felt very sad because no one was being identified as her family. Part of our cultural understanding is that, Ninaway Maganadak, we're all related.
How a community came together to give a name to Buffalo Woman, the unidentified victim of a Winnipeg serial killer.
If this order is adopted, 600 direct jobs will disappear.
And will it be the economy or the caribou? A tough decision is underway in Quebec. Tansei, good afternoon. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Chris Nashkate. Thank you for joining us. Jeremy Skibitsky killed 4 Indigenous women in Winnipeg in 2022. He'll be sentenced for that tomorrow, but the identity of his first victim is still not known. So she was given a powerful Anishinaabemowin spirit name, Mashkode Beji Kikwe, or Buffalo Woman. Thelma Morisseau is one of the people who helped give her that name. APTN's T.R. Wheatley spoke with her near a mural lined with the faces of women and girls who were murdered or went missing in the 2000s.
I just felt very sad because no one was being identified as her family. Part of our cultural understanding is that, Ninaway Maganadak, we're all related, we're all family. My name is Thelma Morisseau. I also go by the name of Danima. There was other grandmothers involved as well. We decided to pass on the name Mashkode Bijikikwe. So our community kind of adopted her, claimed her. Well, not just kind of, we have. She matters. She's important. She is loved. She deserved to be recognized, both here in this physical realm, but in the spirit realm as well. Mashkode Bijikikwe. That name comes from this grandmother, whose name is Mary Roberts Iba. She's passed on. Her spirit name was Nojekwe, and she was one of my teachers. The bundle that she carried, she was a 4th degree Midewin woman in the lodge. That name came to be when she was out fasting. This is back in the 90s. When she went on one of her last fasts. Basically, the Buffalo Spirit visited her and shared many things with her that Spirit Buffalo wanted to help. And so one of the ways she wanted to do that is by giving all of us a name. And that name is her name, Mashkode Bijikikwe. It's a beautiful name. It's a beautiful gift to us as Anishinaabemowin women. For the Midewin Lodge, we have an understanding that the west door is the doorway our spirit travels when we leave. It's that doorway we dance out, But also in that doorway, the one that guards that doorway is that Buffalo Spirit. For the longest time, that Buffalo Spirit was stood there in the west, guarding that doorway for us on one leg. And she did that with the belief and faith that one day we would begin to pick up our sacred bundles. And that has happened. Right across North America, that has happened. People are picking up their sacred ceremonies, they're picking up their language, they're picking up their pipes, their sun dances, their sweat lodges, everything. So some elders talk about that buffalo stands now on 3 legs, stronger. So she is that faith carrier as well. And among the Sioux people, the buffalo skull is really important. They're always used in the Sundance with the Lakota people. So it has lots of significance. You talk about the white buffalo calf woman. It has lots of significance. What has happened to Buffalo Woman, Mashkode Bijikikwe, could happen to any one of us. My daughter, she could be I could be her grandmother or even her great-grandmother. I could be that to her, for her. And so I just see this as a really special honor that I could be able to see her in that way. For the whole duration of court, one of the grandmothers went in early in the morning and smudged the courtroom. We brought in a buffalo headdress, and the courts were accepting of us placing that headdress in front of where the Crown Attorney was, an empty chair that signified Mashkode Bijiki, and on that chair we placed a beautiful red dress, and that symbolizes her. And it could symbolize all the women, right, that were not able, that are still missing and not able to be identified.
Thanks to TR Wheatley for that interview with Thelma. Tomorrow, TR will be back at court covering the sentencing for Jeremy Skibitsky. If you are triggered by this report, the ongoing coverage from this trial, supports are available 24/7 through the MMIWG support line. That number is 1-844-413-6649. The first person in the Yukon to be charged with manslaughter in a drug-related death has been sentenced. Sarah Connors has the details on the man charged and the victim's life sadly cut short in what could be a precedent-setting.
34-year-old Jared Skookum received a manslaughter sentence of 2 years less a day in the death of Kaskaskinkat woman Stephanie Pye. 36-year-old Pye was a member of the Liard First Nation. She died from an overdose after buying opioids from Skookum in April 2022. Skookum, who has a lengthy criminal record, was charged with manslaughter in 2023. He pleaded guilty to supplying Pye with the drugs earlier this year. The Crown and defense asked for a joint submission, which they called unique due to a number of mitigating factors. That includes Skookum's fetal alcohol spectrum disorder diagnosis, showing remorse for his role in Pye's death, and his admission of guilt. With time accounted for spent in pre-trial custody, Skookum's sentence has been served, though he's currently back in jail for unrelated charges. Following his release, he's subject to 3 years of probation, as well as a DNA order and a 10-year weapons ban. I spoke with the sister of Stephanie Pye. She called the sentence a slap on the wrist. She says the justice system ultimately failed her sister and that 3 children have been left without a mother. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
And now a follow-up to a story we brought to you last month about Manitoba Métis Federation President David Chartrand being charged for fishing without a license. He has stood firm that he was not in the wrong. Chartrand was ticketed by a conservation officer in June when he was angling in a lake outside of the recognized Métis harvesting rights area near the town of Cranberry Portage. The area's boundaries throughout Manitoba were set by the province in 2012. However, in 2018, an expansion was proposed that stretches to the town 700 kilometers northeast of Winnipeg. As reported by the Canadian press, the Crown has decided to stay the proceedings against Chartrand. Deputy Natural Resources Minister Dana Rudy says there is currently no enforcement against Métis harvesters in proposed expansion areas. Nearby Nassachawayasik Cree Nation have expressed disapproval of Métis harvesting rights within their traditional territory without their consent. The Pimachikamak Cree Nation is calling on the Manitoba government to cancel moose hunting licenses in its territory, adding that the moose population is in a crisis. On Monday, Pimachikamak Chief David Monias applied for an injunction at Manitoba Court of King's Bench, requesting that all provincially granted licenses for Manitoba residents to hunt moose in its territory be cancelled this year. Chief Monias alleges Manitoba violated Treaty 5 and its 1977 Northern Flood Agreement, where Canada and the province promised Pimachikamak and other First Nations in the area first priority to all wildlife resources within their trapline territory. The chief says his people don't hunt for game or trophies. They hunt to feed their families, and some hunters had to cross provincial borders just to harvest moose. Manitoba Minister of Natural Resources Jamie Moses says licenses have been reduced and that the province continues to engage with First Nations on the matter. Time is running out for the Quebec government to comply with a federal emergency order for it to put forward a plan to protect endangered woodland caribou in the north-central part of the province. For years, local First Nations have been calling for such a strategy, and now the provincial government has only a few weeks left to comply. APTN's Fraser Needham has that story.
Speaking to the Environment Committee earlier this week in French, Assembly of First Nations Regional Chief for Quebec and Labrador, Ghislaine Picard, said caribou face extinction because of a declining habitat due to logging. For that reason, Indigenous communities support the emergency order.
The Government of Quebec persists in excluding First Nations from all decision-making related to caribou. Faced with its refusal to cooperate, the First Nations called on the federal government to intervene in accordance with its legal obligation. Minister Guilbeault was the only one to take our concerns and propose solutions seriously.
In June, Federal Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault recommended Cabinet adopt emergency decree to protect woodland caribou. Quebec has until September 15th to meet the order, but Sacré-Cœur Mayor Lise Boulian said implementing the order would be devastating to her community and could impact up to 70% of its residents if local forestry company Bois Echo were to close its doors.
It's nearly impossible to anticipate all of the devastating impacts. Unthinkable to foresee all of the consequences of such a disaster following the decision by the federal government. How can we imagine everybody getting up one morning without any idea of what their future could look like?
Bois Echo President Steve St. Gelais agreed meeting the order would have big economic consequences.
If this order is adopted, 600 direct jobs will disappear, and it will be the loss of $200 million in annual benefits for our sector. That is unthinkable.
The Bloc Quebecois and Conservative parties are also against the move. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
We'll take you to a recruitment fair in Regina for tomorrow's Indigenous youth. Plus, the Lac La Ronge Indian Band in Saskatchewan has secured the largest settlement of its kind in Canadian history. That story and more when we come back. Welcome back. The Lac La Ronge Indian Band in Saskatchewan has approved a settlement agreement with the federal government, securing $601.5 million for its community, the largest of its kind in Canadian history. The agreement addresses the long-standing Cows and Plows Clause of Treaty 6, where Canada broke its promise to provide agricultural support to the band after it signed Treaty 6 in 1889. The community held a vote last week on the decision, with 90% of voters in favor of the agreement. Lac La Ronge will now work with Ottawa to finalize the deal, which is expected to take up to 7 months. In a statement, Chief Tammy Cook-Searson said, "This is a momentous day for Lac La Ronge Indian Band. The membership's overwhelming support for the settlement demonstrates their commitment to securing a better future for our community. We are pleased that Canada has finally recognized and acknowledged its failure to fulfill the obligations under Treaty 6, and this settlement is a critical step towards rectifying that historical wrong." Well, wind power is becoming more of an option for several Saskatchewan First Nations. This week, a group of seniors from the Cowessess First Nation are learning more about a wind farm being built on Cowessess land near Kipling. CTV's Sierra de Souza Butts has that story.
Wind turbines the size of a water bottle are being created by members from Cowessess First Nation.
It was nice to see what you can do and what you can produce out of just boards and wood and little plastic things.
The workshop intends to educate people on a wind farm located north of Moose Mountain Provincial Park.
The Beckevar Wind Project is a 202 megawatt wind project that has a total of 36 turbines, and it'll generate enough power to power about 100,000 homes in Saskatchewan.
The $400 million project is led by Renewable Energy Systems Canada and OASA's Nihiwani Energy Development, a wholly owned Cowessess entity. It will provide renewable energy to the region for 25 years.
It's amazing. It's amazing to see those windmills, like how big they are and what they'll produce in the future. It's really good.
After building a solar project and wind turbine near Regina a few years back, Achikate says the nation is proud to continue supplying clean energy across the province.
It's important as original stewards of the land to be conscious of the projects we're doing and really think about how they'll benefit not only members of Cowsis, but as well as the province we live in.
So far, 80% of the turbines have been constructed, with the goal of the project being completed by November of this year. Sierra D'Souza Butts, CTV News, near Kipling.
A concert was held this past weekend in the Yukon community of Carmax to raise awareness about the recent Eagle Gold Mine disaster. The concert featured a selection of local bands as well as headliners like Snotty Nose Res Kids and Love NA38. In late June, Victoria Gold Eagle Mine experienced what's called a heap leach failure, allowing cyanide and other contaminants to be released into the surrounding environment. The concert was organized by the Little Salmon Carmax First Nation in solidarity with the Nacho-Nayakdun First Nation, whose territories were affected by the incident. Organizers say around 260 people were on hand for the entertainment and to learn more about banning heap leaching. A recruitment fair for Indigenous workers was recently held in Regina to secure jobs for tomorrow's Indigenous youth. CTV's Mick Favel was also there and brings us this message from the organizations participating.
A job fair with a twist. Businesses, organizations, and local Crown corporations were able to show their fun side, while also looking for new hires at the 2024 Interactive Job Recruitment Expo. It's an event which brought out many to see what jobs are out there and a few hints on what employers are looking for.
Probably 9 times out of 10 when you go to look for a career, a lot of it is what do you have that's transferable? What type of soft skills are you bringing to that role? What type of confidence are you bringing? So yes, you need to have the knowledge, but having the transferable skills to bring to an employer is so important.
The Regina Police Service had a unique presentation, creating a staged crime scene for possible recruitments to solve.
We have our recruiting booth here with all the information that you can get on how to becoming a police officer with the Regina Police Service. You're just not a patrol officer all your career. You can do K9, SWAT, Air 1, all that stuff, and we also have civilian employment.
Innovation Federal Credit Union also had a booth set up. They are looking to diverse their workforce to better suit the needs of the people they serve.
We're looking to have Indigenous employees all throughout the organization. So whether it's frontline employees like member advisors or all the way through the ranks. I'm a director. My boss is the Chief Disruption Officer. He's Métis, and we want to kind of make sure that we have great opportunities for Indigenous people in Saskatchewan all throughout the levels.
Brooks HR Group says they are happy with the Job Expo and there are plans for more in the future. Mick Favel, CTV News, Regina.
With the end of August, powwow season is almost over. We'll take you to one in Ontario. Plus, we'll also go to the Yukon for this year's Canadian Grandmasters fiddling competition. We're back in less than 3 minutes. Stick around. Welcome back. Now for our photo of the day. Today's photo comes from regular contributor Clarence Jones. Clarence captured this shot of an elephant walking out of the the Mara River, on a recent trip to Tanzania. Stunning. Thank you for sharing. If you have a picture from a summer vacation you want featured on APTN National News, send it to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Over on the East Coast, St. John's 23, Fredericton 22. Cartwright 19, Nain 14. Quebec City 21, Gaspé 20. Peterborough 21, Sault Ste. Marie 21 as well. Wawa 17, Big Trout Lake 21. God's Lake 23, Churchill 20. Winnipeg 26, Dauphin 24. Saskatoon 20, Estevan 25. La Ronge 24, Uranium City 20. Sunny in Grand Prairie at 23, Fort McMurray 22. Medicine Hat 16, Edmonton 16 as well. Tofino 18, Penticton 21. 15 in Prince Rupert, Prince George 19. Watson Lake 17, Whitehorse 14. Yellowknife 18, Wrigley 20. Inuvik 18, Colville Lake 16. 15 in Chesterfield, Baker Lake 18. And Arctic Bay 1 and Resolute 0. It was a special weekend for the Rama First Nation northeast of Barrie, Ontario. The First Nation welcomed thousands from within their community and from across the province for their 39th annual powwow at their multi-purpose grounds. CTV's Mike Lang brings us the story.
Dance and Indigenous culture. Nearly 10,000 people to the multi-purpose grounds this weekend for Rama First Nations powwow celebration.
It's a basic tradition in terms of powwow and gathering of our peoples and many of the tribes that come together in song and dance, and it's something that we share amongst each other, and it's just a wonderful time to be together.
Saturday's formalities began with a grand opening, a drumming and large dance to recognize local dignitaries, troops from CFB Borden, and representatives of 50 to 100 First Nations across the province.
We love dancing, and it's
the best thing to do, dance.
And it's really nice.
My brother died of a miscarriage in 2019. It's really hard for me, but for when I'm dancing, it helps my soul and it helps all those negative thoughts get out of my body.
Chief Ted Williams says powwow is a time to be proud of Indigenous culture and to honor those who help preserve it.
It's an opportunity for the Chippewas of Rama First Nation, my colleagues who are on council, for us and staff, to roll out the red carpet and to show how proud we are as Indigenous people.
From traditional foods like our fish, our wild rice, our famous bannock, scone, you're going to find everything here.
The powwow runs through Sunday. Rama First Nation is also hosting the 2024 All-Ontario Native Basketball Championships. Mike Lang, CTV News, Rama First Nation.
Digging that fedora. A major fiddling competition was held in the north for the first time this past weekend. The Canadian Grand Masters fiddling competition took place in Whitehorse on Saturday. The competition drew around 35 of Canada's best and brightest fiddlers, including Indigenous fiddlers. The event also aligned with the 2024 Pan-Northern Youth Fiddle Summit. The summit allows young northern fiddlers to meet and share their traditions and techniques. Youth fiddlers also performed a special arrangement of northern tunes at the Grand Masters competition. And that's your evening APTN National Newscast for this Tuesday, August 27th. We'll be back again for your midday newscast tomorrow with more stories from everyone at our HQ in Winnipeg and from our reporters and camera crew from across the country. Hi, miigwech, masicho. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again.